how important would you say flexibility, and what are some of the things that you do to help golfers to become more flexible? Now, of course, you know, I found your facility about a year ago on Facebook, and I love some of the videos that you post, some of the exercise that you post. And I said, for sure, I'm going to get my son up there with you so you can work with him and make sure he maintains his flexibility. So talk to us a little bit about what do you do to help golfers stay flexible?
Yeah, you know, so a lot of it's really kind of looking at it from like a tissue standpoint than it is anything else. And so so I'll have you do this, Ro. This will help you out. This will kind of give you a good example. And the listeners, they can do the same thing. So raise your arm up as high as you can, right? Okay. Good. So you got that there, right?
Right.
Good. You can kind of look and see, like, you know, how high your hand is and where it's at, right? So now bring your hand back down. And I want you to kind of grab a hold of the bottom of your shirt here, okay? And you're just going to grab the sleeve itself. So just kind of grab your sleeve. Good. And then now try to raise your hand up as high as you can as you're holding on to that sleeve. And you almost might feel like it's a little restricted. And some people might feel like their arm isn't as high, right? Mm-hmm. So what happens is you have this sheet that kind of covers your muscle that's just like a sleeve. And that sheet is called fascia. And what happens is sometimes that sheet might be a little tight on some people where it feels like it's really pulling down. Some people might just have a little bit of a snug feeling to where they can't really lift it up. Now, if we end up kind of loosening that up and kind of breaking that up using the foam roller and kind of just heating that tissue up, all of a sudden it starts to loosen up. Gotcha. And then we get that extra range of motion. And so sometimes when we look at flexibility, we don't have to look at it as a bad thing. It's more of just kind of, you know, it's a quick, you know, maybe we do some things to prepare your body before we end up stretching it. So we'll end up using a foam roller and just kind of stretching up, kind of getting that tissue to warm up a little bit and breaking up those adhesions so that all of a sudden it doesn't feel like you have a really tight shirt on that you can't really move around in. And all of a sudden now you have all this extra range of motion. But it's amazing sometimes seeing clients who just end up just kind of using a band or a towel and they're just kind of pulling on legs and cranking on joints, when sometimes it's really more of a let's warm that tissue up first. Right. And then let's see if there's improvements there. And if there is, then that's great. And for kids, sometimes whenever they're in that, on a side note, for kids, there's this growth velocity curve where their body is just going to be stretched out, right? Right. And so what ends up happening is that muscle, you know, it is going to be attached to that bone, and it's going to be tight no matter what because of the way that the bone is growing, right? Right. In those situations, if you are going through a growth spurt like that, you don't really want to hammer, you know, flexibility because it's already tight to begin with.
Gotcha.
What you want to do in those situations is you just want to do like sprints because everything's tight. So all of a sudden you're kind of like this fast twitch muscle type all over. Mm-hmm. And so that's where you're going to gain the most amount of speed. And so we would kind of move away and shift away from more of a flexibility approach to going into more of a, hey, let's go into speed development because right now you're primed for it and we're going to get the most out of it. And so that's kind of how we end up kind of navigating, especially from some of our junior golfers, of just kind of understanding, like you said, like individually, right? Where are you at? You know, are you growing? Are you not growing? Is it a flexibility issue? Is it a soft tissue issue? Is it a joint issue? For most of the juniors, it's going to be more of a, you know, they haven't had enough of kind of life experience to really jam up their joints so much. Right. And it's more of like a tissue thing where I find, or it's more of a growth spurt. They just went through or they're about to go through to where there's going to be a little bit more pulling on from that muscle onto the bone itself. And in that situation, we would just say, you know, right now we're primed to just do a lot of speed work, jump work, throwing medicine balls, you know, running. Those kind of things are going to be perfect for you at this point. So it's really kind of looking at somebody and seeing kind of where are they at based on their growth curve, or just based on just kind of their life curve. You know, somebody like I tell some clients, like for most of my older clients, it's like, hey, we got two solutions. We're either gonna have to add oil to you or we're gonna have to add duct tape to you, right? It's gonna be, we're gonna have to add oil to those joints to kind of get you lubricating so you can start to move a little bit more. Right. And for some of my juniors, it's more of a, hey, you have so much motion. Yes. What we need to do now is we need to put a little duct tape on you so that now we have controlled motion, you know? Yes. It's one of those things where you have a backswing that everybody wishes for, but, you know, we're not getting the most out of it because we don't have control of the whole swing itself, you know? So that extra range, not that it's not being utilized, but it's not being optimized, right? You know, we can't really use it to our benefit. And so that's kind of where we look at it. You know, do you need oil or do you need duct tape? You know, do you need more mobility or do you need more stability in your swing? And it's the same